Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more. Okay, audience, here's the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer.
And welcome to the Author's Edge radio show. I'm your host, Guy L. Freer, and each week we bring you thoughtful, lively conversations with writers, publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists as we explore the power and craft of storytelling. You can catch us every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or stream online at KWRH929.com and KXOK1029.com, as well as on the free apps iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn. Author's Edge also airs nationwide Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on the My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? You can find us anytime on SoundCloud, YouTube, or at authorsedge.org. Now that's authorsedge.org. And Laura, welcome to Author's Edge. I am just so glad you are here.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm here as well.
Today, we are stepping into a powerful and often overlooked chapter of American history, the story of the Rosenwald schools and the people who helped bring that story to light. Joining us today is Laura Burton, along with the enduring work she created with her late husband, Dr. Charles Wesley Burton, a journey rooted in history, research, and a deep commitment to preserving an extraordinary legacy. Now, Laura was born in Pickensville, Alabama, the sixth of 9 children, and was educated in the first and second grades at a Rosenwald school in Pickensville. Her family later moved to Tuscaloosa for economic reasons, where she and her siblings attended Central Elementary School and Druid High School. Just 2 days after graduating high school, Laura moved to East St. Louis, Illinois, to live with relatives while working and attending college. Her first position was at Barnes Hospital at the cytogenetics lab, followed by a role as clerk typist with the Department of Veterans Affairs Loan Guarantee Department. Through dedication and perseverance, she advanced through the ranks, serving as executive secretary to the associate hospital director, administrative office, blah, blah. Ultimately retiring as consumer affairs specialist and patent advocate after 40 years of service. That's a lot. Laura also served as federal women's chair for the Federal Executive Board and worked as a stress management trainer for VA hospitals. Beyond her career,
but there's more. Yeah.
There's more.
Wonderful.
She and her late husband helped build 2 churches in South Africa, which I'm like blown away.
Cape Town and Colesburg.
She is a 3-term president of the Zonta Club of St. Louis and serves in leadership roles within her church and community. Her late husband, Dr. Charles Wesley Burton, developed a deep fascination with Julius Rosenwald, leading them through years of research, uncovering the powerful legacy of his philanthropy. My goodness, you have been a busy lady.
Yes.
We
were.
Yes, really. Hearing your story laid out like that, it's clear how deeply these experiences have shaped you. So let's begin there, okay? Now, you were one of 9 children. What was life like growing up in Pickensville?
Well, we lived on our grandfather's farm. A whole family lived on the farm. So I was used to running wild, in the grass, watching them all go, because cotton was king then, had a huge part of the 198 acres that was dedicated to cotton, sugar cane, and melons after that. So that was mostly what the whole family did. until my uncle was drafted into the World War II, and he had to leave, and but the family continued. And then, after the war and everything, cotton was no longer king.
Right.
Although when I go home now, it is. Cotton's everywhere. I mean, down southern Missouri and everywhere. But that was basically how our family was. Went to school. The first school that we went to, it was a one-room school. And I remember the teacher was Miss Juanita. And that was only for 1 year.
That was only 1 year.
Yeah. And then the next time I was going to school, it was at the Rosenwald School.
And was it called the Rosenwald School?
Yes, ma'am. And that was the curiosity about it when I became an adult. Why in the world would we have gone to a Rosenwald School in Alabama, especially in Pickensville and Aliceville? And Aliceville also very, very well famous in a way, but I found out, I think it was looking at a television program with my husband, and we saw that over 500 prisoner of war were also housed in that little country town. I had seen the area, but I was always told, don't go over there. Don't go over there, you kids. You keep going wherever you had to go. But one day...
There was a prisoner of war camp?
Yes, ma'am. It's now recognized, and the last time I was home, the National Park Service had their sign out, and they had made it a visitor's site. It also, I saw it on one of the television programs, one of the history stories that was going on, and they mentioned about these prisoner of wars that were kept in these small towns all over the South.
Well, that's interesting.
And we had one. We just didn't know it as children. Now, my older brothers knew about it, but they never said anything to the younger children about it. So that was our little town. And we do have now, when I go home every Christmas, my cousin, they've made a Rosenwald, like a little building that they are recognizing, as a visitor's site. So I'm really happy about that. I have her name and information if you want to get in contact with her one day, but that is something that I know that they are doing, and it's something recent, more recent.
You attended the Rosenwald School. What do you remember most about that experience?
Well, the inside of it, because the other school was very raw. It was just a one-room school, and all the classes were taught there.
Grades 1 through 8?
1 through whatever older person,
whatever the oldest person was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the concept of that was later visited when my husband was an educator, so they started that again, but they called it put a new name on it, but I forgot what it was. But all of us were in the room, and she taught, each group, and then the older children would help
with the younger ones.
Yes.
Right.
So there was no kindergarten. You just went when you were 6 years old.
Right.
Okay.
You just started.
Yeah, you started school.
You just started school.
And then I think when I was in my 3rd grade, they moved to the Rosenwald School. It was already there, but I don't know if it was being used for older students or what. But it wasn't a new building. But in it, I think I have a little photo of it here. This is the inside of the school that we went to.
This is the inside.
Was one of them. Yes.
This was the inside. Hey, Mark, can you see this? This is the inside of the school.
Get it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
that was
right.
how the chairs were lined up, and and most of the schools had the same, from our research, the same setup.
Same setup.
Yes. And the fund didn't only just pay for build the building, because there were no buildings. They paid the teacher's salary if that was needed.
So they paid for the building. They paid the teacher's salaries.
Well, it depended on the community. The community had the option of doing something. if the community had this building, then Rosenwald funds could go for the teacher's salary.
Oh, I see.
Whatever the need was at that time,
Right.
in our, research, that's what we found out.
Right. Whatever
what
they
the
were
need
given
was,
funds. Now they could do
and they can use it, yes,
for whatever
where
they,
it was
right.
needed most.
Right.
That was how that worked.
So how did these early experiences shape you?
Well, first of all, we had it was family. Everybody was related, cousins, and my mother was taught us basically the basic information,
Mm-hmm.
which
Your
was
ABCs, your
unusual.
1, 2,
Yeah,
3s.
my mother had a 12th grade education, and back then that was unusual. But her father was a professor. So anyway, I think nowadays they have another word for when all the kids were in one room and they heard all the same information.
Mm-hmm.
But at the Rosenwald School, we had separate rooms
You were
for each
separate.
classes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. But I just remember going to school and that our teacher, Miss Annie, did not play.
She did not play.
Yes, when she told you to do something or stop talking or whatever it was, you better
You
better heed it.
You better do it.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
you better do it.
But that for my older brothers and sisters, they had probably had longer there, but we moved. I think the year or so after I was in at the Rosenwald School. Everybody was moving from the farm because it wasn't profitable, and so we moved to Tuscaloosa, University of Alabama, all of that. And my mother, we went to regular school, elementary school, with the teachers all lined up, so different. It was in a city. And then that Tuscaloosa, they not only had the University of Alabama, they had a historically Black university that probably got some funds from Mr. Roosevelt named Stillman College.
Right.
And they're still there. It was I think, associated with the Presbyterian Church somehow.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
so
but
how
they're
did
still there.
moving to Tuscaloosa affect you?
Well, everybody was moving because you can make it on the farms and everything. So most of my older brothers, which were 6 of them, 5 of them older than me, had already, except for 2, had already left with my uncle when he came from the World War II. He moved north to the automobile industries, yeah. And he took my older brothers who had graduated, because my mother was insistent everybody had to graduate. So when they graduated, they all went
north
to Ohio with my uncle and made good lives. They worked in the industry, had their own little businesses and everything, and did well. Yeah.
How did you land your first job at Barnes Hospital?
Well, during that time in the South, Jim Crow was still much alive, with black, white, and schools were separated. And I think my mother was insistent that I go live with my aunt, who lived in East St. Louis, Illinois at that time. And my aunt had a job at Barnes Hospital. I think she was in housekeeping. I'm sure she was. And she had asked, so my niece was sent here, they agreed that I could come to live with she and my uncle. And that was unusual. I turned 16, and 2 days after that, my mother put me on a bus to come to East St. Louis to stay with my aunt. And I look back at that, sometimes I wonder why. That was amazing,
Yes, it was.
because out of 5 boys, I was the first girl, and then we had another brother and then 2 sisters. And I was very close to my mother. But I look back on it years later and knew why she did that. My aunt, and she apparently had planned it because my aunt never had children. And so I did. I came with her, and she showed me how to ride the bus over in St. Louis, and, just basically
Made you independent.
Yes, she did. She helped. And that was the beginning of that part of my life,
And you stayed and you have a 40-year career at the
Yes.
VA. And how did that happen?
Well, I took tests, I had met my future husband through a church friend, a lady that worked at the hospital. And she was telling me about this nice young man that I should meet. But she says, I'm not so sure because you talk, you do this. And I'm not so sure if that would work out. But she says, I'm going to introduce you to him. He just joined our church and he's teaching at the high school in East St. Louis. And so I said, oh, well, if he's that great, why aren't you dating? So it ended up, that's how we met. And, but anyway, I had to borrow his car. I needed to get a better job at Barnes. It was,
It was okay.
running, yeah, but it wasn't, I needed more and I was going to school too, part-time. So I borrowed his car and I had never driven on a bridge, especially the East. When you cross the East, it had that roaring kind of
rocking
kind of thing. But I had been taught well in the school we went to in Alabama. It was excellent. It was all segregated, but we had a principal that had the idea of couples who were married that were into education, that were teachers. They would be hired. So the family thing was very strong there because you saw Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Mr. and Mrs. One taught this and she taught that. I guess they met in college, but that was one of his ways of keeping the children, I guess,
together.
Yes, and keeping everything together. And so, as a result of that, I had a good basic education because all my teachers were Black. All of them. We didn't have any. It was segregated. Everything was segregated. But they took an interest and made sure that we passed all the tests. So when I took my test at the employment office, I passed everything.
Wonderful.
So they sent me to this new government building to work because they had openings for clerk typists and stenographers and all of that. And that's how I got started my career in government.
You're listening to Author's Edge on KXOK 1029 FM and KWRH 929 FM. I'm Gael Freer, and today we're exploring the remarkable legacy behind the North Star Julius Rosenwald's impact upon Black America with Laura Burton, a story she and her late husband, Dr. Charles Wesley Burton, worked on to bring to light. Stay with us. Now, your stories alone is remarkable, but become even more powerful when it's connected with the work that you and your husband began together.
Yes.
So what caused your husband to research Julius Rosenwald?
Because he was on I think it was a Jewish Holocaust board here in St. Louis, or had some interactions or studied or volunteered at before we had children at nursing homes and things. And there were several little ladies that were Jewish, and he would talk to them and they would tell them their stories. And so he would come home and tell me the story. So I said, well, you know what? We went to a Rosenwald school. Is that a Jewish name? I would ask him. He said, well, we can look it up. And he did. And all this information came up about Julius Rosenwald, the philanthropist that was president of Sears Roebuck, had built all these schools all over the South, and had donated fellowships and scholarships to a lot of the people that we know that are, renowned. Like, I guess one of the neighbors over here in East St. Louis, the dancer, Catherine Dunham, all of those people that we knew that were connected with the Harlem Renaissance. I always figured and wondered, how did that happen? And my husband and I had that conversation, and he said, well, I'll look it up. and see how it happened. And he did. And that's when he discovered the story about Mr. Julius Rosenwald and his contribution to the Chicago area, that he had built the Museum of Science and Industry. That was mostly his money. And that he had built all of these schools. He had met Booker T. Washington.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to
Yes.
ask you about. How did that connection happen?
Well, from what what we researched, Booker T. Washington had well, this was a funny connect. I'm not quite sure how it all came by, but Booker T. Washington was the president of Tuskegee Institute. And a lot of these people, the ones that were famous and made it to the top, they had either gone to Tuskegee, Institute for their education, because there weren't a whole lot of places that a lot of them could go to. But what was so remarkable, I asked my husband, why and how did all these people get to where they were? The Harlem Renaissance, all these people that were involved in that. And he started this research, and it all led back to the Julius Rosenwald Fund, the scholarship.
So a lot of them came out of the Rosenwald schools.
No, not necessarily. A lot of them who were wanting a career or already started their careers to further their career and to complete their careers, a lot of them got this Julius Rosenwald Fellowship.
Oh, okay.
And that gave them the opportunity to go to all these other colleges to, to hone their skills and to get the scholarships and the degrees that they would not have had
otherwise.
Yeah, they didn't have the resources. But some people would have made it anyway. But most of these people in this little book here, all of these that I have tagged here, every one of them, even Catherine Donham, that lived in East St. Louis and had and worked there with the group, they all had at least one Rosenwald scholarship or fellowship.
So he gave a lot of money
a
to
lot
educate.
of money. And he had made that money through the garment district. And he was born really, he lived actually in Springfield, Illinois, which was the same place where Abraham Lincoln,
Yeah.
just kind of ironic about that, lived. But he was from a German Jewish family who had immigrated to the States, probably a lot of other families as well. But he was involved in the garment districts in Chicago, and he would meet this Richard Sears gentleman. And most of us have heard of the Sears and Roebuck catalog.
Yes, we have. I used to dream.
My
goodness gracious! Did I
when the
dream
Sears
and dream
and
and
Roebuck's
dream?
catalog came, it was like,
Oh, yeah.
and it was only one, so the whole
Everybody,
neighborhood
yes, everybody was dreaming from it.
had to share it. So that was basically why my husband is a researcher. That's just why he and his brother, who also is an author, that's what they do. Their parents were not, didn't get to go to college and all of that, but they were very well read people. And his dad was a Pullman porter, and those guys, went all over. He would go to to California. That was his run, gone a week and come back a week.
So what were your research trips like?
Well, we would go to any place that was a lead, like the little town down in Alabama. I forget the name of that little town where we took this picture here. What was the name of that little town? Oh, it was the classroom at Mount Sinai School in Prattville, Alabama. We just took a trip down home. I always go home to Alabama every Christmas. So we just drove to Prattville. And my husband called and talked to the people before, and they were expecting us. So when we got there, they were sitting in the school. The school building still stood. And we took photos of us walking around in the school. And it looked basically the same as the one that we went to in Aliceville, Pickens County area. So from what the research we did was all the buildings basically had the same structure. I mean, built the same way, and had the windows and everything. It was just kind of, they had a drafted design for them, and people followed that. And they, had windows and all of that, and and the little chairs that were all the same. But at least the teachers had a warm place, comfortable place for us,
for you to learn.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Laura, the impact of the story is extraordinary, and we're only beginning to see how far it reaches. So let's take a quick break, okay?
Okay.
And we will be back. So this segment of Author's Edge is brought to you by Blue Rooster Publishing, guiding writers from dream to finished book, helping you create stories that enlighten, connect, and endure, because great stories deserve to be heard. Authors, artists, and creative entrepreneurs want your book or project in front of a literary audience that's already listening. Author's Edge offers promotional opportunities on KXOK 1029 FM, KWRH 929 FM, and across the My Genre Radio network. Whether you're launching a new book or building your platform, we can help you share your story. Ready to reach your audience? Call 573-714-1352 or visit blueroosterorg.com or email Gaelle Freer at outlook.com. That's Gaelle Freer, GAELLEFREER at outlook.com. And if you're looking to take that next step in your writing journey, join us September 12th for the Missouri Writers Guild Conference in St. Louis, a dynamic day designed to inspire, connect, and elevate your writing. And we're honored to feature Ellen Hopkins, a New York Times bestselling author of Crank, as this year's keynote speaker. If you're serious about your writing journey, this is an event you won't want to miss. Visit the Missouri Writers Guild website for full details and come be part of the conversation. Author's Edge, where authors and readers meet and stories find their way into the world. Bada boom, bada bay.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
Hi, this is Gaelle Freer, and each week on Author's Edge, we bring you thoughtful, lively conversations with writers, publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists as we explore the power and craft of storytelling. You can catch us every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KXOK 1029, and we'll see you around the inkwell.
Jewels on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. 314-752-5000. Jewels on Hampton.
And welcome back. We've been talking with Laura Burton about the remarkable legacy of Julius Rosenwald and his partnership with Booker T. Washington, and just how far that impact continues to reach. What is the origin of the title, The North Star, Julius Rosenwald, Impact on Black America?
Well, my husband loved the idea of when the slaves were going north, that was their
The North Star.
direction. Yeah,
That was the direction.
person that directed them, and he thought Mr. Rosenwald was also a North Star for providing all this opportunities for all these people. And he would always say, most of his entire life in Chicago, where he went to school, he had never really heard too much about Julius Rosenwald, although Mr. Rosenwald had built the Museum of Science and Industry and
he was the quiet guy behind the scenes.
Yes, but he did so much, so many, actually generationally, that benefited, from those fellowships and scholarships that he got, because we just went kind of crazy when we started looking at all the names like Langston Hughes and Catherine Dunham and W.B. Du Bois, because as a little girl I always wondered, how did these people get to be so famous? Where did they get the resources? And when he started doing all of this, we just had acquired a computer, and he started showing me all this stuff. He said, this is how they got it. Rosenwald's fellowships or scholarships. And most had one, at least one, but most had 2 or 3 fellowships.
What is unique about the little known town in Pickens County, Aliceville and Pickensville, Alabama? I think we talked about that already.
Well, it was the 5,000 prisoners of war that were housed there. And all my life, I didn't know it until I was a teenager, but it now has the National Park Service recognition, and people can come.
Yeah. How is Rosenwald's philanthropy different from others?
Well, they didn't, for number one, I think the is that it happened. There was no other person that we know of after we did all the research. I'm sure there are other people who donated to Black universities, but during this time when there were no rural schools at all, and all of these states in the South, and as we were talking,
it was one of the largest impacts, because
the largest impact would have been just education. You know, people could get a job. You can your doors were open. Well, even now, there are people who can't read. And if you look at a lot of the people who can't read, there's a they're getting into different things they shouldn't.
If you can't read, you can't do.
Exactly. It's a sad thing, but it still happens. But it was important to my family, and especially my mother, because she had a 12th grade education back then because her dad was a professor, but she made sure everybody in the house could read. She didn't wait till the teacher did that. We didn't have any books. I have to say we had very few books, but Mr. Rosenwald also, money went to a lot of towns to build libraries, YMCAs, all of that. Even St. Louis had a YMCA that was a Rosenwald. I think my husband and I found the map of the city, and it looked as if it was near the area of St. Louis University, or near Harris Store. It was a YMCA that had been built with this money. So it's his net and his love for humanity, or whatever caused him to share that way. It went for generations. I mean, and the people benefited, and can say all of these people, I didn't know some of these people at all, but when I read on the back of all these great people like W.B. Du Bois and all these people, most of their education was funded by the Rosenwald Fellowship.
Right.
Yeah.
You gave me a quote, give while you live.
Yes.
All right. At the heart of this story, it's a simple idea, one that feels just as relevant today as it did then. When you hear this phrase, what does it mean to you?
Well, I read that was Mr. Rosenwald.
That
one
was
of the
his
things
thing.
he would say. Yes.
Okay.
And that his fund that was it.
Give while you live.
Yes, and while he lived, he knew a lot of these people, and he visited Tuskegee Institute while Mr. Booker T. Washington was there. And that is a miracle in itself. That building, Tuskegee Institute, funded, and it was built by the students. Even the bricks were made by the students.
Wow.
The utensils that they use, if you ever go there and take a trip and tour it, it's a miracle place. It's unbelievable what those students were able to do with the help from Mr. Rosenwald.
How is Rosenwald's philanthropy different from others?
Well, I can only say is from what me, I hadn't discussed this with anybody else. People didn't have to pay it back. And the other thing was it didn't limit you. You know, because a lot of these folks I called out, Langston Hughes and Walter McAfee and Ralph Ellison, all these people had different talents and different careers that they followed, but they were able to use
the funds
fellowship
the way they saw fit.
Sure.
And there were no limitations.
Right. They used it, and they all became famous people, and they're in this book and written. The stories are just, remarkable.
Where do you see this philosophy most clearly come to life in his work? You know, give while you live.
You know, and when I was reading all the philanthropy things that he did, like the Museum of Science and Industry, that cost a lot of money. And then his business deals that he had with Richard Sears, who was, of Sears and Roebuck. Of course, I think the company went through some hard times, but Mr. Rosenwald was able to help out with that and make things go. It just seems like to me, any person who was really interested and would apply or for that fellowship, they received it. And they are the people still in this book that are still mentioned, like Margaret Abigail Walker and Dr. Charles Drew, who was, the first blood bank. He founded that.
Going back to the schools for just a moment, all right, what were the conditions like before these schools existed?
Well, like I said, I was a little girl, so all I remember is the one-room hut, the one that we went in, the first one. It was cold. They had a potbelly stove, there. And
now, when your mom went to school, did she ever tell you anything about her schooling?
No, she did not. I don't remember her saying.
What about your dad?
My dad was a farmer, and I'm not so sure even if he did go as far as my mother. My mother went all the 12th grade. He may have gone. But his dad, but they farmed. They were farmers. All the boys had to do that, and a lot of, and that was one of the problems. There were no schools in a lot of the southern areas,
right?
For not only just blacks, but a lot of whites that didn't have funds. There were no schools, basically. And so the people worked the land, because that was how you provided for your family.
Yeah, you worked the land.
Yeah, you worked the land, and that's what we had. We had enough land to do that.
Why do you think this story has been overlooked for so long?
I don't think it was an intentional thing. I think it just took somebody that was interested and just asked the questions like we did.
Right.
And because Mr. Julius Rosenwald was well known at Sears, he was known on the garment district. However, Mr. Rosenwald's grandson wrote this book about his grandfather. This was after this. We met him, my husband and I did a few times. It is excellent and very well done, and basically follows what we had done. But now people do know. And he wrote it from his father's grandmother and family. Yeah.
His
His family's, yes, from the family's perspective.
What surprised you most when you were writing this?
Well, I think what surprised me was the people that he helped.
The numbers
of people that he helped. And he was very prosperous with his own finances, because he had, I think, a philosophy where a third would go to, family, and then a third would go to, I don't know, investments or whatever it was, but a third, the last third would go to philanthropy. It was sort of his philosophy that he would share it that way. And I think with that principle, based on biblical, if you give
a tithe.
Yeah, tithe. That's what the scripture talks about. If you tithe, and even though you don't think you can, just try it and see what happens. God's faithful with that. And so Mr. Rosenwald, that's how he gave.
Well, evidently, look at all the schools that he produced, and then the people that he had helped with scholarships and grants and all that.
All their careers outside of this, a lot of these people were geniuses in math and all of those areas, but he gave, they applied, and most of them got their fellowships, and they followed through.
What did these schools symbolize to you?
The Rosenwald schools? Well, basically, that was, I think, our only, I don't know what would have happened. Basically, with the families and the farm, the rural areas, a lot of the rural areas, how would their children have ever? Yeah.
Do you know of children that went through the whole system in the Rosenwald? Like went through beginning to the end?
Well, I used to. I know on my mother's side, I do. My cousins, my mother's side, I'm sure most of them went as well, because that was the only school there.
The whole thing, from like the beginning, like to whatever grade up that they.
Well, I don't know that, because they had a high school there.
Okay.
They did have a high school, but these were more grade school.
Right.
The ones that
you went.
All the ones that we visited basically was the grade school.
Like kindergarten, first grade to
to
like eighth grade.
Yes, or something like that. But most all the other places had high schools, because I know my brothers all went to a high school called Sumner in Alabama, Pickens County there. I know that. And his schools were, if you look at the way they're built, they weren't built for bigger. These seats.
I noticed that. In this one, we have it looks very much like a one-room school.
Yes, some of them were.
Yeah.
So it was to get them going, and that was his purpose in the beginning. It wasn't to do everything. He was to do parts of your need, whatever that was.
Right.
If you had a nice building and you didn't have a teacher, then you paid for
the teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What was it like discovering the list of recipients?
Oh, I have to give that credit to my late husband. He was one of those people who knew how to research. And it took a long time. He would, and the librarians, I have to give all librarians that we interacted with, they are wonderful.
One of my dearest friends is a librarian, and anytime I have a question and I send it to her, she's got an answer for me just like that.
And if she didn't, she was going to get back to you.
Right. She would know where to find it.
Right.
And she would even be able to tell me where I needed to go. I'm telling you,
well,
librarians are God's gift to the planet.
That's what I say. And he was persistent, and they loved working with him because he knew exactly what he wanted and how to do it. And they would call, and when that list, and we had to drive, I remember, a long way outside of Chicago in a suburb to pick up that list. And we had to get it back to them because it was valuable. It not only listed the Rosenwald African-American people, but there are a lot of whites who received. All other groups received fellowships from Mr. Rosenwald, and they probably were on that other list we didn't get. We just got that one list, and we had to return that. So we did.
How did these fellowships shape history?
Well, it really catapulted it. It would have taken so much longer.
If not, if
Well,
some of them,
and I think the United States benefited because a lot of these people in this book who received the fellowships, these people were doctors and lawyers and artists, all kinds of backgrounds, and they went all the way up. That's why their names are in here. And some of them I had never heard of, but when you read what they did, and women were treated equally, when they would apply, they got as many fellowships that they applied for.
that's also
Because you
pretty
have a lot
cool.
of women's names in this list. It's a long list, but you see a lot of their names as well.
So you have the list.
There's
Is
the
that-
list there
is the list
of
is
all
in the book, of all
in the
the
back.
reci-
Yeah,
in
in
the
the back. It's the Appendix G, an index listing of African American
And
Rosenwald
how many
fellows.
are there?
They're not numbered, but if you count, look like it's about 20, 40 on each page. Yeah, and there are 1, 2, 3. How many pages? It's a lot of pages here. Look at this.
Oh my goodness!
They're alphabetical, and yes, it's A1, both sides, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So it's
that's
10 pages,
10 pages, and they both have at least
2 columns.
yes 2 columns. There has to be at least about what 20 on each column.
So that's at least 40
on each page. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He
And these
really
were
contributed.
like I said, and there's another list of white recipients.
Those is just the
Yes,
African
we
American.
didn't get. Yeah, we just got that list
Wow.
and had to get it back to them, and we did.
How has the world benefited from the work and contributions? It's
Well,
right
look at
there.
all these
It's
names.
just-
the
yeah,
world
yeah, the
has
world,
benefited.
yes.
Yes, some of these people worked on the
Yeah.
bomb. They worked on physics, math, chemistry,
Right.
sciences, nurses, entertainers. You name it. They're
They're
in this
there.
little book.
How did Mr. Rosenwald impact the city of Chicago?
Oh, quite a bit. I mean, first of all, the museum, and then there's a whole community there. We visited it. When a lot of the people left the South and went north,
Mm-hmm.
there were no room. I mean, apartments and housing that could accommodate all these people. Mr. Rosenwald, there is an area there. My brother-in-law drove us by there one time where it's called the Rosenwald community. I don't know if that's the name of it, but everybody knows it's the Rosen because
Right.
he built all these apartments, housing, and parks, and
Mhm.
things. If you're gonna have people housed, you got to have
Someplace
some
for them to live.
space.
Right.
Yeah, and you got to have space for people to green space, and the parks and everything in Chicago. That's still there. I mean, that area. That was just for a lot of those black who would come north and had
Right.
no resources or
Right.
contacts.
Now, real quick, radio identifier. You're listening to Author's Edge on KXOK 1029 FM and KWRH 929 FM. And I'm Gael Freer. And today we are joined by Laura Burton, sharing the story behind the North Star, Julius Rosenwald's impact upon Black America, a work she created alongside her late husband, Dr. Charles Wesley Burton. Stay with us. Now, let's talk about the research. And when you spent years working through that history, researching it, experiencing it, it changes you.
Yes, my husband was the expert on that side.
He was.
And the computer had just really, we had gotten one, and he really went wild with that computer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How did the research process go, especially visiting some of the remaining sites in Alabama and Chicago? Now you showed me a picture.
Yes, that's one of the inside, the one in
this
Pratt.
is right.
I think
This
it's in
is
Prattville.
the inside of one of them.
I think that was when we went to Tuskegee area.
The Tuskegee
Yeah,
area,
I think it's Prattville.
Prattville.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And they
seal
all
pot
look the
belly.
same. They
all
all
look
look
the
the same. I mean, whoever designed them.
Mm-hmm. So how did the research process go? Smooth sailing, no
No
problem.
problem. Especially, like I said, the librarians were wonderful.
Yeah.
And the little towns we went into, if you can find the people that were there older enough, they were very helpful. There were no problems with that.
How did it feel like when you visited these spaces?
Well, since all the buildings had to look the same, I
same.
mean, they were on same, built the same. You can just see the people that benefited. It's like generations of people
Yes.
had
When
been
you
there.
walk into a place, like when I travel and I go to
Mhm.
places that are historical,
Uh-huh.
you know, and you walk in there and you get that feeling of the history of the
Mhm.
people that walked before me.
Yes.
You know, that feeling of like if you're walking down the streets in Paris, for example, and you walk down the Champs-Elysees and you know that
Mhm.
Napoleon walked down
Yes,
those streets, or
yes.
you know, whatever, that sense of history.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, did you have those same kinds of
Yes,
feelings when you
yes.
were in some of these places?
Exactly.
Um,
Because it's like you've already been there to a certain extent, you know, because
Mhm.
they all were the same. And he had this thing about on the design had to have windows.
it had to have windows.
So yeah, and I loved when I read that about the windows. That's good because kids have to look out. I mean, they shouldn't maybe, but
But you want sunshine.
Yes, yes,
Sunshine.
yes.
You
He
want the
thought. I mean,
sunshine.
whoever designed the schools, they thought of all that.
What challenges did you face when you were doing some of this research?
We faced no challenges like that. The point was most hardly anyone knew about him.
Uh-huh.
Everywhere we went, even in the small towns, unless there was some family connection,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know. People just did not know.
So was it easy to find some of the schools, or were a lot of the
The-
schools still standing?
A lot of them were not, but the ones that were in Alabama that we contacted, we went to.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think there was one in Oklahoma that we were gonna go because my husband's family is from there, but we never got any information back on exactly the location. Now my brother-in-law, who is an author himself, he may know because he goes back and forth. He's
Mm-hmm.
has written a lot of cowboy books. His big thing is Bass Reeves, the first black marshal. It's west of the Mississippi, and every time he would be given uh, I guess, Judge Parker would give him a outlaw that he needed to bring in. This Bass Reeves always brought in
Uh-huh.
whoever the judge name was on that, he brought them back. And so my brother-in-law is an author for all those kinds of books,
Oh, okay.
Arthur Burton. So, but
Well,
he
maybe
didn't.
maybe we need to get him on
I
the
think
show.
you do. I really think you do. I think he would love it.
Oh, well, then we need to
His
talk
books
to him.
are wonderful. As a matter of fact, Bass Reeves is on Legends and Lies movie.
Well, then we definitely
Yes,
need to
you
chat with him.
definitely need to do
Well,
that. And I'm hoping my brother-in-law is listening today because I asked him to. So if he hears this, he
are
needs
you
to-
listening? Inquiring minds need to know.
We really want to know.
Really. So what do you hope the readers will take away from this book?
Well, the big thing is that the philanthropy part of it. And if you see something, a need, do something about it.
Mhm.
You may not have the money like this man did, but you always can encourage people. And if you see or know of anybody who can't read, I don't care what age they are, get them some help.
Reading is so important.
It's so important.
Yes. I
That's
was
how
an English
important.
teacher for 39 years.
You know.
I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely. Looking ahead, what are your hopes for this book and the conversation that continues to spark?
Well, I'm just excited that the spark has sparked. That someone else knows the name of this man besides.
The spark will be available when?
Well, in 2 weeks.
In
That's
2
what
weeks. There we go.
publisher just told me.
Okay, in 2 weeks, the spark will be available. Do you see yourself continuing this work or expanding it or exploring other stories or writing something new?
I don't know. This is so big to me. It goes on and on and on.
Mhm.
My husband and I helped build 2 churches in South Africa. And that's where my heart is now. The children.
Have you thought about writing a book about that?
Now that you said that, yeah, I'll think about it. It was a wonderful story and how that all came about. But we were there during the height of the AIDS dilemma and saw the suffering. And we were there also when we found out that President Bush sent the antivirus after we left, knowing the situation, and what big difference the next time we went.
Mm-hmm.
The difference it had made to have those antivirals. And the church that we helped build was used as a clinic.
Wow.
Because it was in the middle of a township, like 300 huts. I can't imagine. You have to see it to really imagine it. Well, the city of Cape Town.
We can't get too into that because we only have 3 minutes, and I want to make sure that we get. Where can our listeners find the North Star Julius Rosenwald's impact upon Black America? Where can our readers get that?
Well, it will be on YouTube. That's what my publisher
this
tells
will
me.
be on
all
YouTube.
Of that,
but where can they get the
Acclaim
book?
Press.
Acclaim Press.
Yes.
Will it be on Amazon?
Yes.
It will be on Amazon.
Yes.
So they can purchase it there in about 2 weeks.
That's what he told me.
Okay. And then
Doug is a man of his word.
Yes, he
and
is.
Doug is a man of his
Yes,
word.
you know him. Okay,
Absolutely.
well, then you know, so I don't even have to say a word.
Yes.
Laura,
Well,
thank you so much for being here today. This has been such a meaningful conversation. I truly appreciate the care, the research, and the heart that you've brought to sharing this important story. It's one that deserves to be heard and remembered. Our next show will feature Leonard Tocco, author of Richness, Auburn Heights, the last great antenna installer, and The Order. And to our listeners, thank you for being part of our literary community and for supporting the stories that challenge us and inspire us and carry us somewhere new. Thanks for listening to Author's Edge on KXOK 1029 and KWRH 929 FM. You can catch us on air each weekend. Stream at kxok.com and kwrhf.com. On iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn, and nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? Find us anytime on authorsedge.org. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep creating, and I'll see you around the inkwell. Bada boom, bada bang.